England and the USMNT. Oh boy, it just had to be. Hi, if you're new here, I'm Filippo, and welcome to Tactical Manager TV, and welcome to the first of many World Cup videos here at the channel. Actually, we've done videos before, so this is not the first one, but you get what I'm saying. The United States will face England for the 2022 World Cup during Black Friday. This is a massive game for the United States and for England. Their group is composed of England, USA, Iran, and the fourth could be Scotland, Ukraine, or Wales. So expect us to make videos about all these nations throughout the year, depending on who the fourth one is, obviously Scotland, Ukraine, or Wales. Now for today's video, we're going to bring in Ma, a Chelsea expert and English soccer expert as well. Probably the least biased Three Lions fans. He'll be helping us and giving us an English perspective of the English national team. So go give him a follow. His link is on the description. For this video, we're going to address the weaknesses and strengths of the English national team and address whether or not the United States has a chance of pulling an upset or not. And by pulling an upset, I mean even winning this game. There is a possibility, but look, England are the favorites. There's no questioning that. We will most certainly be bringing different guests in the future to bring us different perspectives from different countries. So hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you enjoy these types of videos. Or hit the dislike button. I'm kind of used to that by now as well. Any engagement is good engagement. This video is also rated M for mature. So yes, we will be using the word soccer because we call it soccer here in the United States. And if you're English, you ought to know you made the word. So now let's bring in Ma and talk about association football. All right, Ma, back in the channel. Last time you were here to talk about Christian Pulisic. Today you're back to talk about England and the United States. How you doing?
I'm doing very well. I'm doing very well. Good to be back. Always a pleasure. And I must say our group is very, very intriguing. So I'm very excited for it. As far away as it is, time's gonna fly by on this one.
One thing I wanted to ask you before we even start diving into this is I've talked to you outside of the camera once and off screen, right? And you mentioned you follow the English national team, but you're not a diehard, right? You're more of a Chelsea guy. Is that what it is? Yep.
Yeah, no, it is. When I look at England, listen, I'm excited for the people around me. You know, the people that obviously around me in London that are absolutely begging for any sort of major trophy, and I'll be happy to see my surroundings in celebration. But it's not the be all and end all for me. If England don't do well, it's kind of like, okay, whatever. You know, we're kind of used to it at this point. Maybe I'm just numb to it. I think ever since that Frank Lampard goal that didn't cross the line against Germany, I haven't really felt a clear connection. And then on top of that as well, you know, you only have to look at the Euros and all of the racial abuse that the players received after that incredible achievement to get to a final. I know it's not a win, but England are not you know, draped in winning. You know, they haven't won anything since 1966. So I thought it was such a shocking, you know, account of what was a really good tournament for a lot of those young players. And for me, again, that's why I'm so like disconnected often with this national team. It's the people that follow it, unfortunately, that ruin the experience. So yeah, but at the same time, obviously I want England to win. You know, I want them to do well, and if they will, maybe it will provoke some emotion that I've never felt before.
There's one good thing about this is it means I probably just brought to the channel the most non-biased English fan I could find.
Yeah, 100%.
So diving right into it, how do you describe under Southgate right now England's playing style? What are they? A possession-based team? Can they pick a lock? Can they play a low block? What would you describe it?
I think England are best when they're given that give and go, and what I mean by that is they're not coming up against the most of deep of low blocks, because I think Southgate is a bit too cautious, in my opinion, to come up against a low block. When you traditionally come up against a low block, you want a lot of creative options on the pitch. He tends to go the opposite way and be very conservative, very defensive, I think, minded in his approach with some of the players he selects, and we saw that in the last tournament with Grealish. Grealish was such a key to unlock the door, so to speak, and he was the key to unlock Kane, and he only really brought him off the bench a lot of the time. He never really shown that he could start him consistently and really get the best out of our attackers and really be a little bit more forward thinking in his approach. So I don't think England are best suited to go up against low blocks, but it's very hard to judge England because my summarization of England is they do very well against the poor teams. They do very well against the teams they're expected to beat. And they do very well in the qualifying. They absolutely breeze through that to get to these tournaments. And then when they get to the tournament into the latter stages and they play, a Belgium or they play a Croatia or whoever it may be, they tend to get their asses handed to them, or they tend to be dominated. We saw it against Italy in the Euros. We should have probably got. We should have won. We're at home. We have the crowd on our side. Everybody else is away from home. We have the tournament in our own country, and we still don't get the job done. And I do feel that is down to Southgate for me not being able to take it to the next level. He's done good. A lot of people will say to get England maybe pushing in the right direction in terms of involving a lot of young players and looking to the under-21s of experience. I'm not going to bash him too much, but I think in terms of taking England to that winning level, I don't think he's able to do that. And I think his decision making at the final hurdle is proven to be what costs England a lot of the time. And you see it, even the finite decisions of that Italy game in the final in the Euros cost him in the end. So I do think England are better when they give and go. Don't try and dominate, but also don't sit on the back foot. Just play the game out and allow those spaces to appear. They've got players that can definitely take advantage of those spaces in the attacking midfield area.
I do like to put a little star on Southgate's accomplishments with England because, one, the World Cup 2018, people like to hear this or not, England was handed an easier bracket, right? Yeah. And they lost to every elite team they faced.
Yeah,
they lost to Belgium twice and they lost to Croatia. So if they had faced an elite team earlier, they would have gotten knocked out probably based off that, right? Not certain, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
The Euros, it was somewhat the same thing, right? Because as much as England did knock out Germany, we know that German side was struggling getting rid of Joachim Löw and getting Hansi Flick after. It was just not the German team that we see now even, right?
Yeah.
And then England played at home, which obviously helps for sure. And then, like you said, they should have beaten Italy, but they didn't beat Italy.
Yeah.
And then there was the whole issue with the players after, which maybe the fans do need to do some self-reflection, the ones you mentioned already.
Yeah.
Or not. Who knows what they'll do. But anyhow, I do think that maybe those accomplishments, England got a little bit lucky, and they're being overhyped into believing this team is at the same level as a France, a Brazil, which are the actual contenders. Now, does that mean England can't win the World Cup? No, they absolutely can win the World Cup. I think they have enough talent. I just have some questions in regards if Southgate can pull the best out of the talent they have. And I do have some questions in regards to like their back line and even goalkeeper. Yeah. I think it's reasonable to have there. So with that said, if you were the United States coach, would you just straight up go a low block and try to beat England in transition?
I would. I think, listen, our defense is for me the Achilles heel of the team, and I think that's potentially why he goes with the back three to try and overcompensate and overcommit with numbers there. You look at the likes of Harry Maguire, Cody, Mings. These are some of his favoured centre-backs. I wouldn't say they're elite. They're absolutely not. I prefer the Tomoris of this world that are a lot younger, but they have a lot of potential. He doesn't tend to want to pick them. I think in the fullback areas, we're quite strong, especially on the right with Reece James, with Trent, with Kyle Walker. The left-hand side right now, Chilwell's injured. Shaw has been very poor. Mitchell's been called up, Kyle Walker-Peters. There are good options in the wide areas, but central defence, I do question it. Goalkeeper wise, will he go with Ramsdale or Pickford? It will be a big decision for him to make. I hope he goes with Ramsdale, but I do think there is definitely opportunity to try and hit that back line, and that's why he tends to go with the three. But yeah, I think for you guys, I look at Pulisic, the performance that he put in there over recent weeks, it was incredible. And he does have the star boy factor of delivering the goods every now and then. I do like that left-hand side. I think is it Robertson down the left-hand side or
Robinson from Fulham?
Yeah, I like him. He's former Wigan. I think fullback as well. He looks good. I didn't see Dest in that win. Was he?
Serginho has I think a muscle injury, so he wasn't there. But I think players that we could mention too that are dangerous. Weston McKennie from Juventus can be a dangerous player. Giovanni Reina, Tim Weah in transition. I personally keep saying this. I think the United States is a transition team. And I think one of the reasons we struggle with some CONCACAF teams is because we end up having to be ball dominant, and that's not us, especially under Greg Berhalter. But England, we're not going to have an option because we're finally going to face a team that's actually better than us, right? Unlike CONCACAF. So England's going to be the one imposing how this game is going to go.
Yeah.
And that's why I was asking you, should we just sit back and transition? And
I would
it
say
looks
so.
like, yeah.
I would say so, because because Southgate, the way he sets up, we will have the ball, but we will not necessarily have the players or enough players that we need to capitalize on the ball. And what I mean by that is that he could easily start a Rashford. I know he didn't make the last squad, but he could easily bring Rashford to the World Cup because of maybe prior loyalties and whatnot. And he's not the best player in terms of possession-based football. I'm not sure what the midfield dynamic is going to look like. He did have Phillips and Rice in there, but then he had Phillips as the one going forward and Rice as the one sitting back, which is kind of interesting because when you look at Phillips, he's the one that sits for Leeds in that lone DM role, and Rice this season has been the one to advance. I know Rice was sitting last season, but Rice is the one that has the ball carrying ability a bit more to move forward and has got goals actually to his name as well. So that was kind of a weird little combination. Some people will say too defensive as well. Whereas the likes of Foden not performing to the highest level in the last tournament. Sancho struggled in an England shirt as well. So he is struggling to get the best out of some of our most high potential young players that are quite creative. And that's why I do question at times the low block. Now, Kane as well in that tournament was dropping extremely deep into like this regista type role. I didn't like that. He was coming too deep to try and get as many touches on the ball as possible. So even though Kane is a top striker, if you remember that World Cup as well, he scored a lot of penalties, a lot of, really lower ranked teams he was scoring against. Yes, I think he may have been challenging or end up getting the golden boot, but it was, again, when you analyze it, it's not as impressive as it appears on paper. And I think against top teams as well, or more challenging teams, how does that match up? Does he bring in and get a bit more attacking with some of those players to unlock, like I said, with Grealish, or does he go more conservative and does he go more defensive? So it's going to be interesting, but I do think obviously England are the favourites for this game, and they will demand to win this match, and they will demand to win this group. They should be winning this group. If they don't, it will be ridiculous from them with all of the talent and the ability that they have. But England with Southgate, it's still questionable. It's not something you can hang your hat on for sure.
You know what I have? I have one problem with England, and you kind of mentioned it without going direct into it. You talked about Harry Kane pinching back a lot to play like a regista, pretty much playmaking, right? And I noticed that in the Euros, and I've noticed it a few times with England. And I brought this up on Twitter, and a lot of people gave me hate for it. I kind of said the reason he does that is because England lacks creativity through the middle. So Harry Kane kind of has to be that creator. It forces him to do that. And people started to bash me saying that Mason Mount and Jack Grealish, these guys, okay, but one, they play wide most of the time, right, for England. And two, some of them don't play. They're not played by Southgate. So Harry Kane does that for that. I think that is an issue with England for breaking low blocks. They have the players to do it. I'll give that. But Southgate doesn't put them in a position to succeed through the middle. So they just become through the flanks. Yeah. And it becomes easier to defend, especially when your center forward is having to come all the way back to play as almost like a 10.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. And Harry Kane, we've seen it for Tottenham. He's probably one of the most creative, forwards we've seen since maybe Wayne Rooney in this country in terms of dropping deep, being able to spray the pass, great assists, wonderful technique with his passing, great vision. But like you're saying, we need that in midfield, and we're going to need that progressive passing from, say, a Declan Rice, and we're going to need that progressive passing from a Bellingham. I want to see more Bellingham. I think he could be the key to making this England team just a little bit more dynamic. And really, it's about England just upping the tempo in their play. When Grealish used to come on, he used to change the tempo. He used to draw fouls. He used to get the crowd to stand up. Just give us something different. I think sometimes England are a bit too predictable in their approach. But if you get Bellingham in there as well, we didn't see as much in the last tournament maybe because he was a bit young on the young side. He played against Ivory Coast. I hope to see him a lot more because whenever I've seen Dortmund, he's performed quite well, especially with Erling Haaland missing for a large part of the season as well and with injury. So it's going to be interesting, but it will all depend on the squad he takes and the way that he approaches. I mean, he's just had the friendly against Ivory Coast. I'm interested to see if he sticks with a 4 at the back, or he continues with the three at the back, which we've traditionally been seeing in. Where does Trent fit in? Trent's not really a wing back. I'd say Trent is more of a right back, even though people will say defensively he's not as strong, which is right, as Reece James. But because I don't see Trent as this like a athletic, this guy that bombs up and down the wing. Like he's more of a kind of like central kind of fullback where he wants to, like Philip Lahm or someone, you know, or Kimmich. He wants to take up the central zones and come inside and pick the passes. He's
very technical.
Very technical. Yeah, he's very technical. I wouldn't want Trent bombing up and down the wing back position and just like exhausting himself in the touchline. So I don't know what he's going to do. You know, I really don't with this guy. I think it's sometimes it's difficult to work him out. But on paper, he's got a good record in the last 2 tournaments, right? It looks good. 4th in the World Cup. I always say the World Cup's difficult as well because the South American teams come in and they're another kettle of fish to deal with. So yeah, it's going to be difficult. It's going to be interesting though.
Yeah, I think in terms of Jude Bellingham, my opinion, and I don't care if anyone gets pissed off, but I think he's the best midfielder for England. Straight up midfielder, right? And again, when I say midfielder, I'm not really including Foden, Mount, and Grealish because they play wide. So when I say midfielders, I'm saying Declan Rice, Calvin Phillips, players like that.
Henderson, yeah.
Yeah, I think he's the best one. And again, maybe he should follow what Sir Alex used to say. If you're good enough, you're old enough, right? Just play the kid. Now, the 2 questions, and one is very quick. The other one, I want you to give your thoughts because you're living in England. I think you kind of answered this already. Do you rate Southgate or not?
For me, Southgate has his limitations. I think he's done well, but I think it's time to hand it over. And I don't rate him particularly really highly as a manager. I don't think he walks into top jobs in any country, really. I think he falls into the lower half of the Premier League at best, maybe, you know, potentially even relegation candidates in terms of like bottom 5, in terms of the jobs that he's looking at when he eventually does leave the England coaching role. I don't see him as this really top tactician. I don't see him as this really high pedigree manager. I just think he's galvanized a group that he's been working with from the under 21s. It's kind of gone in a good direction where he knows a lot of the younger players. He probably has good relationships with them. He's shown his loyalties to the likes of Harry Maguire and some of the senior players, which will obviously help in his favor. And I think he's kind of benefiting from the fact that, yeah, we do have a really strong generation of young players coming through. You look at Smith Rowe for Arsenal, Saka. You look at Gallagher at Crystal Palace, Mark Gurhey, Mitchell, the way that they're playing. So he has got a very talented group of players coming through, and then some really good seniors in Harry Kane as well to top it off. So he does need to take advantage of this. And really, England should be looking to aim to win some sort of silverware with this group of players. But like I said, I don't think he's the guy that will get that done.
Okay, now the last question, the very last one. And this one, I want you to be very honest and not talking about you, because you have been always very respectful in terms of the United States soccer team.
Yeah.
And obviously, England is excited for this game because it's the World Cup and the whole country, it goes crazy for the World Cup, just like entire Europe and South America and the world does. How are English, and I'm going to use the F word, English football fans.
I love it.
Yeah. How are English football fans looking into the United States right now? Is there more respect? Because now, like we said, Pulisic being an actual Premier League player for Chelsea, Weston, Dest, Reina, there's some good players now. Or do the actual English football fans as a whole, because the media disrespected the US already. Yeah. They've already done that, right? But do the fans, do they see the U.S. as, all right, boys, maybe we should take this game very seriously, cautiously, because this team might be able to spark something here and there. And we've done it in the past to England with worse teams, right? Yeah. We had worse teams and we've done it. How are the football fans seeing that? Are they respecting the U.S. or the disrespect is still there?
I don't see a lot of disrespect now. I can't speak to see everything, because I must say I haven't seen a lot of response, obviously, because I've been so wrapped up in Chelsea over the last week or so since the draw happened. I do see rivalry, of course. Like, it is a big fixture. And I think, you know, it's the same with maybe England and Scotland. Like, we recognize that, or England and Wales, we recognize that, yeah, we're the favourites. But at the same time, we recognize that this is a massive, massive game and it's a massive rivalry. So I'm not sure if there's much disrespect. Maybe that will come or not come, you know, as we get closer to the tournament. I would hope not. Because I don't, as an England fan, in my approach, ever get, I don't really get any sort of, you know, ridiculous level of confidence. Where would it come from? We haven't won anything, you know? So, but yeah, I think with the young players that you're mentioning, it would be silly to disrespect the US national team. Yes, we know we're the favourites. We should win, but you have more than enough players to watch to be at least, you know, respectful of it and say, listen, if we don't do what we're meant to do and we don't turn up, we can lose this game, or we could definitely at least drop points. And there's weaknesses in our. It's not like England's team is glittered with just complete strengths. Like I said, I've mentioned a lot of young players at the wide positions, the attacking midfield areas. There's a lot of strengths in terms of promise, but it's also there's some weaknesses. You know, I haven't been impressed with Harry Maguire's performances for club, but then for country, he does okay. He does pretty well actually over the last couple of tournaments. I think he made the team of the tournament in the Euros. So the goalkeeping situation, the manager quality, there's enough weaknesses at England, or enough question marks from approach standpoint and tactical nous, where you can't really get too confident. You're favourites, and that's as far as it goes, I think.
Okay, that's fair too. We're gonna see more of the reaction from English fans once the game approaches, how they're gonna take it or not. But it's what you said, because of how England is known for a lot of times having the better team and not accomplishing, especially against the United States, right? They've never beat the United States in World Cups in 2 games. I know it's only 2 games, but the United States has always been very bad. So you would expect England to have won. But with that said, Ma, I'm going to wrap up this episode right here. It was great to have you once again. We hope to have you back soon. Thank you
100%.
very much, Ma.
Absolute pleasure. And as it gets closer and closer, it's going to be, the rivalry is going to intensify. It's going to be an interesting group. Obviously, we still have the 4th team to see who makes it as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I really am. It's going to be, the game is going to be the rivalry is brilliant. It's going to be great. So I'm looking forward to this, to see that.
Thank you, Ma.
Pleasure.